Hello, and thank you guys so much for tuning in today to the channel. We're sharing a new DIY. It's soap making, as you saw from the title. Many years ago, I attempted to make soap, and I didn't make it. I was so, um, what's the word? What's the word? I guess I feared working with lye, not really understanding it. And then the book that I was reading at the time, I guess I was just afraid of having to use so many different products at once and didn't really want to mess it up. But with the advance of YouTube and, of course, the internet, I decided to attempt it again. So let me show you guys what I learned. I'll share with you what I pulled out from it, and we'll see what happens, right? So I learned that we're going to work with lye. Now, yes, lye is caustic, it's a poison, but with safety, we can work with it maturely. I'm choosing to use spring water, but distilled water is preferred. At least all the soap channels that I did look into, distilled water was the preference. Also, I found this on sale. Crown molds. So I'm going to use that, but you don't have to have silicone molds. You can use any carton that has some give. You're also going to need a scale, something that measures in ounces or grams precisely. Some type of thermometer, something to gauge the temperature of the lye water mixture. I have some glasses here. I wear glasses, but I do have these goggles to wear over my glasses. Um, Different utensils to include a spoon, a skewer, measuring cup. You see, I have like different things all here. You're going to need a bowl to mix all of the oils in. I think I enjoyed the process the second time around. Something that I wanted to add was honey, and in that little container is ground oatmeal, actually powdered because I passed it through my blender to get it in a much finer state. And then, as you see here, a plethora of oils. And that's the beauty of making your own hair care, soap, whatever you, your bath oils, whatever. You get to put whatever you want in it. So let's get started. The first thing I wanted to do was measure out the amount of water and the amount of oils that I would need for the project. Now, once you've measured that out, now I didn't share with you a recipe here because, like I said, this is my first attempt, right? The thermometer is to help us gauge the temperature of the lye water mixture. Oh yeah, and another thing too, some old rags, or I'm using newspaper to keep like that lye water mixture off of whatever, my surface as much as possible. And I also have some plastic gloves on, as you can see. Now the idea is to constantly stir this lye water mixture until those little granules of lye are completely dissolved. Now if you were to touch the side of that bowl that you just mixed the lye into the water, that bowl is very, very hot at this point. This is the danger of working with lye. It can burn your skin. Um, it could be very harmful to your body. Even the smell is very. It's not a pleasant smell. I'm letting you guys know that now. So cover as much skin as possible when working with this lye water mixture, and then after you're satisfied with not feeling any clumps or granules at the bottom from stirring back and forth, use preferably a wooden utensil or something like a plastic utensil, never stainless steel, because lye will definitely have a reaction to it. This will have a reaction to it. So yeah, keep stirring, allow the gases to be released. And this is a very important process in making soap. I learned that all soap contains a lye water mixture. Now, there's a chemical reaction that happens when the lye water mixture is added to the oils, something called saponification. So you're not washing your body or using this lye water. You're not using that. It's the chemical process that turns the oils into soap. That's what we're going to take advantage of. So what I'm doing right now, you see I'm using a spoon to constantly stir because I want to make sure that I have a very clean mixture, and the water will, when you're mixing the lye and the water together, it's going to become very smoky or very hazy. As a matter of fact, it will release some fumes, and you'll see like a little bit of, I don't want to say smoke because it's not smoke, but you'll see that there will be some like you'll be able to see what you'll know that it's hot. And so the temperature, the thermometer is to gauge the temperature of the lye water mixture. And you want, the reason why you want to measure the temperature is you need to be able to handle it. It's absolutely way too hot. This thing got up to like 198 degrees. 198 degrees Celsius. And so what I've done so far now, I've set that aside. I was pleased with what I was pleased with the mixture. It's fully incorporated, so I'm going to set that aside to go ahead and work with the oils. So my scale, there's something called tearing when you're working with a digital scale, and basically all that is making sure that the scale is zeroed out each time you go to measure out your oils. Now I learned something the second time around. This way that I am doing it here, that I'm sharing with you, is the long way, to constantly tear out, constantly tear out. And though it's most accurate, I've seen some soapers actually maintain their the bowl with the oils on top of the scale, and they would just tear out the scale without having a separate container each time they would go to measure out the oils. Now this oil particularly is the shea butter, because it's a solid oil. It's solid. I did have to heat it. Now I didn't want to disturb any of the beautiful qualities of that butter. What I did do was create like a bain-marie, I guess, or a double boiler. I put some water in the microwave oven, got it heated up real good, and then I put a bowl on top of that bowl and just added the necessary oils, the butter inside of that bowl, and allowed it to gently come to a liquid state. And that's what you're seeing here. So just wanted to add that in. Now it seems that I've put too much and I need to take some out. And there was a recipe that I found on the internet. And I'm sorry for hitting the camera. I have my camera mounted overhead. A lot of times in my videos, you'll see like a piece of PVC pipe along the perimeter of my videos sometimes. Well, that's a stand that I created, that I made in order to hold my camera overhead. One day I'll share that with you guys as well, how I created the overhead mount. And if you look in the red bowl, there's another person nearby. That's Sage. That's my little girl. She's standing on the side of me while I'm working with the oils, and that's her little hand there with gloves on. She wanted to empty the oils into the red bowls. One word of caution, and there you can see my camera overhead from the reflection. When working with this, don't let children work with the lye water solution. And to decrease the amount of splatter you get when pouring the lye water solution, just flip your spoon over and pour the lye water solution over the spoon. And once you get that lye water solution into those oils, go ahead and start stirring with your spoon first. And you'll notice that there's something happening. There's something going on. That's the saponification. That's what's happening. It's beginning already. Now, you're going to need a stick blender unless you plan on stirring this thing the whole time. And it doesn't take that many pulses. My first time around, I pulsed that thing so much to where it became very thick rather quickly. Now, a measure that you should definitely use is pulse, then stir a few times. Pulse, then stir a few times without pulsing. Pulse, and then stir a few times, releasing the machine. What we're looking for in my research is something called trace. And basically what that is um, being able to see a residual of the soap, like the soap would become, or the mixture would become thick enough to where you could see that it's it's creating like a trace over itself, so to speak. And I'll show you what that is. You see how it's thickening up here? Now this is a brand new not stand mixer, um, stick blender. And there's so much torque to it that it's moving the bowl. But after doing this a couple times, you see how it's leaving a residual on the stick blender? That's trace. That's how I determine if it's thick enough for me to use. And that's more than enough trace. So after you've reached this stage or a little sooner, you can put your additives. And the additives is the good stuff like the honey or the ground oatmeal. And you can get on the internet. There's a plethora of additives that you can add to soap, like goat's milk. Your fragrance oils. You can also add this at this time. Um, with some other things that you can add, you can pretty much powder any seed, right? If you have one of those coffee grinders, you can add anything. Literally, you can grind it up. I've even in my research saw people take um, tea bags, like green tea bags, and open it up and sprinkle it through their soaps and just mixed it up with a spoon and use that as an additive. So there's so much that you can do. You can become so creative in doing this. Now you could see how thick the liquid did become. This, it's now been saponified, and all I'm doing now, and I do apologize for the camera or not being within view of the camera, but I am pouring or at least trying to get my molds completely filled. And I don't know if this part was necessary, but I mean, we'll see in the end how everything turns out. This old silicone loaf mold in my cabinets, in my kitchen cabinets, I washed it really good, sterilized it really good, and then I just used it as a for a loaf. But I'll tell you this, in the very end, I did not like how the soap turned out with that because there was a little too much give in the silicone mold itself, and um, I didn't have the proper base for it or the support around it. And what I did use was just like another loaf mold that liner could sit into comfortably. But we did get some soap out of it. Now this bar, I would say it's more of a conditioning bar, even safe for my hair because like I said, all of the products that I use in my hair, as far as the oils that I did choose to use, all of those oils are in this bar of soap. So this, once I test the pH to make sure that it's mild enough for use after 4 to 6 weeks, I will use this as a conditioning hair bar. This will be like something that I can keep in the shower. Remember the chopstick? This is what it's good for. You can create designs. You can make sure that all of the soap is off of the sides. Now, I just added some of the orange essential oils over the top of it. And essential oils, it doesn't take a whole lot to create a scent. Now you see all of those ripples that I've created with that chopstick? When this soap dried, it was so pretty. It was so beautiful. And then I didn't want to have any, I wanted to make sure that the bars on the silicone mold, the pink silicone mold was very neat. And so that's what I'm doing here, just taking the excess and filling in as much of the corners and the little crevices as possible. Wanted to make sure that every crevice, every little corner of the crowns did indeed get some soap into it. Now, something to do after you've put any product in like a mold is to tap it down, so this way it will release those air bubbles. You know how just like in baking, if you bake, how you have to tap the pan down to release the air bubbles? Well, it's the same process here. The mixture is similar to like a pudding consistency, and so that's what we're going to do here. And all I did was insert the soap mold in an old pan that I've repurposed strictly for soaping. As a matter of fact, all of these tools are strictly for soaping. None of these tools that you've seen here today will be used in my kitchen for cooking purposes. And basically what I have is like a big Tupperware box that I just keep my soaping adventure gear in, so to speak. So this way my little girl doesn't get any of this stuff. She won't pick up any of this stuff, right? And it could be very harmful to her. But yeah, it was very fun to do. Now, ideally, after 24 hours, the soap should be hard enough to release from the molds. In addition, you don't want to use this soap immediately after the 24-hour period. This soap will need to cure for at least 4 to 6 weeks, and in some cases, maybe a couple of weeks longer. So, I mean, yeah, just leave it alone, let it sit. Cover it because it's still going through that saponification process. It's still going through that curing process. So what I'm doing here is just measuring out an old piece of cardboard to cover it with. Then I'm going to wrap it and wrap it with like towels and an old blanket just to keep that heat locked in. It's going to go through what's called a gel phase, and that's really good. In my researching, I learned of something called cold process oven process, where it speeds up that gel process, that gel phase. But I'm not going to do that here because I really don't know how to do that yet. I really would like to get a little more information on that. But I'm doing things the slow, meticulous way in a sense because it's my first time and I don't mind. So I'm just measuring out some cardboard, covering it up, and then I'll wrap everything up with some sheets or some material to keep that heat in, to trap that heat in and allow it to naturally go through the gel phase. And that's like some of the very last steps of making the soap. Now, of course, after you get into the habit, everybody's going to want some of your soap, right? Everybody you know is going to want some of your soap. So 24 hours later, let's see what we did come up with. So I'm just gonna remove the blanket. It's a pretty day here today. And this is the loaf. Removing the cardboard. And like I said, all of these utensils have been completely repurposed for soap making. This will not go into my cabinets at home. They're going to go into a big Tupperware container. Some of them came out like very easily. Oh, that is so beautiful. Look at that. That is so pretty. Oh, wow. And look at the detail. I like it. Now it's still a little soft, but the majority of my oils were in liquid state, except for the shea butter. So I expect it to take a little while to harden. So I may let these cure for the 8-week process, for the entire 8 weeks. So those are the Kingdom Crowns. And now the soap loaf. Let's see what happens. And like I shared with you earlier, I did not particularly like the way that this mold, you see it's broken off there at the corner, and maybe that's to be expected. Now you're going to need a knife to cut the soap loaf. I didn't like the way that it's bowed at the sides. It's quite soft. And I do have to clean up the edges. Now to clean up the edges, it's so simple. You can use like a peeler or even a butter knife or an old knife. And like I said, this is just my first time making soaps, and I do plan on giving these away. But when I do give them away, at least 8 weeks will have passed, because I do not want anyone to have them before they have completely cured. I like the color, and I'm not sure if I will show you like the inside of the soap. This is the natural color of the soap after it's gone through the saponification process. There were no colorants added, except I will say that we did add the fragrance oil at the very end, and yeah, I believe that was it. I believe that's what we did. Now, in researching, I did learn that I do want to constantly turn the soaps and make sure that each side of the soap gets a chance to fully release the water that's in the soap. That's what's going to help to create a nice hardened bar of soap. So just remember that if you decide to make your own soap one day. Most importantly, let that 4 to 6 weeks time go by, or just wait 8 weeks to make sure that the bars are neutral enough for your skin. Thank you guys so much for watching. Wonderful day. You guys are the best. God bless you, and I'll see you later. Bye.